That score from the first map might have made you think that this was going to end a whole lot sooner, but TSM falls short on their own map selection as Gen.G decimates off the back of Sean's massive performance. And we now move on to map number 3. We are heading over to Split. My name is Bach. Joining me on broadcast is Vansili. This is the Nerd Street Gamers Valorant First Strike Open Qualifiers, which is a mouthful in and of itself. But now we get to see what's going to happen. How are things going to happen on Split between these two teams after they traded blows on each other's maps? And both have kind of struggled at times on this map specifically. It creates an interesting scenario.
I think when you looked at how Gen.G played so well again versus versus Sentinels yesterday or before yesterday, it was also due to the fact that Sentinels also didn't play a similar type of composition that
they had
Envy
Sage.
Exactly. They had Sage in their composition, which kind of allowed Win to really move out into the mid side and take a lot of control and get some op picks earlier into the game. So I think Win and Gen.G were doing very well to get opener kills, get first bloods into the round 2. But when they started playing versus Envy, now that you started to have a breach that's going to throw these flashes, that's going to throw these fault lines too, that doesn't help somebody like Quinn to try to play aggressively, and he got punished quite a few times versus Envy that when they were trying to get a lot of map control on their end, and they were losing it for Gen.G's side. Now versus TSM, it's going to be a whole different type of style of game as well, but let's look before we get into that for TSM at the replays, or at least a scoreboard for that previous round. So we talked about how good Sean was, a 339 ACS and 233 ADR. Like I said, man, he popped off, he looked huge. And right behind him, I think for me, is going to be Mikael with the Odin, with the average damage that he's been doing. But still, when you look at ACS, GMD was doing very good as well.
Yeah, Sabrosa played okay. His ACS is somewhat high, but when you look at the average damage, not necessarily the same. Mikael's work with the Odin was not just spammed through walls either. It was open LOS shots, quick flicks coming out from the Odin. So now we shift over and we see a bit of a juggle of roles, as Sean has gone to the Raze, Demon now away from the Odin, playing instead as the Breach. So it's a bit of an interesting juggle up of roles for Gen.G. We've seen this already from TSM, as Hazed is loving the fact that Viper has come back into competitive play, as he's been a long-standing proponent for Viper use, and now there's every reason to bring her in. Right off the bat, though, we see Gen.G going for mid control, starting on the attack. Mid pretty much vacated right now, as they've got Killjoy and Viper playing B, and they've also got support from Omen, who's back on the stairs. Here they go. There's the dark cover coming in. That'll help neutralize Sabrosa's position. The paranoia might just be a little bit too late. The flash comes in, and Cutler doesn't stand a chance. Kills piling up in both directions as they trade blows back and forth. The turret also doing a little bit of extra damage, helping slow things down. But yeah, the spike's been dropped. It's been lost in heaven. And you can see them actually starting to filter out as they need to find a new way to get back to it.
And what I was trying to say before we actually got into this game was Gen.G, they had to play a different style versus Sentinels, they had to play a different style versus Envy, and now they have to play a different style versus TSM that actually brings a Viper into their lineup as well. But with that, though, with them trying to push aggressively inside of this B side, it was perfectly helped by the two players up
10 seconds left.
And Sabrosa being the main cause of that. But now it's back to a 1 versus 1 because drops into it a site. Should be an easy kill here for Wardell. He's waiting for it, and there's that kill. Not even allowing Mikael to get the plant, just securing that frag, playing the timer into his side, using the right moment to peek out, and TSM gets the pistol round.
Scary though. TSM very well could have lost that round. Sabrosa puts on a heroic performance, as does Mikael, as the Omen. Again, you can see the rest of the roles. Quinn and Wardell not swapping away. Drone leaning towards the breach this time around. Cutler and Hayes to have swapped roles a bit, with Cutler now playing Sova and Hayes typically playing Cypher. We see kind of a change back to a certain regard, with Cutler now switching to Killjoy on this map. And I will say this, TSM has been one of those teams that it's probably frustrating to play because of the fact that you don't really know what you're going to get from them until you get it from them, at least once in a tournament. They constantly change things up. And speaking of changing things up, it's a fastball play coming out from Gen.G, but it doesn't work out so well for them. They gain early access to the site, but it gets crushed as the defense is waiting for them. And it's now down to just 3 for Gen.G.
As well played there for TSM to hold things off to start. I mean, getting the poison cloud and then putting the snake back on the ground only allows Quinn to actually get through. But at the same time, you had Sobrosa that threw a paranoia to counter up anybody else that's trying to push forward, so they had to fall back again. So they did a great job of split up the push, and then they just go in for the push themselves for the last kill. So that's a nice flawless round in their favor for TSM, and that's something that Gen.G is going to have to look out for. I like the idea of what they're trying to do to try to kill Hayes inside that default area, was because while you had Quinn that was dashing inside the site, the paranoia was thrown by Mikael at default. But again, Hayes just had better positioning in the end. He wasn't affected by the paranoia.
Placing
and
swarm grenade.
in the end, where it was able to get the kill.
Swarm grenade. I'll get
First full buy round coming out from Gen.G. We'll see if they can get past the defense, especially when Wardell has the AWP in his hands. Off the bat, they get a little aggressive in mid, starting to peek past the smoke that's down. It's a fault line coming out. Wardell's waiting on the other side of this one, and Quinn's got the read. Just knows the way that Wardell loves to play it. And now you've got an isolated fight with the Viper. But somehow, not that much damage dealt to Hayes. He comes out on top of the exchange. He's down on 72, sure, but look at the Jet who took the fight with him. Down in the red. Now that's a nice nade coming out as that catches Sobrosa going for a deep and dark cover towards lower mid. But it looks like we're going to see a shift from Gen.G. They're going to start working towards this A site, and it is a minefield, as there is a lot of utility set up from Cutler there. The turret, and of course, that digital molly, as it's been referred to, as it's been coined by Rivington, the nano swarm, the alarm bot. And of course, you've also got the breach here ready and willing to slow things down. There's the flashes coming out as they start to make their push. Drone has to go big, as they've already got one up in heaven. Nice flick over from Sobrosa with the off, but now they flash out as they try and slow this down even more. Drones in position with a Spectre, able to gun down Mikael. The battle goes back and forth, but it's TSM who manages to bring it down to a 2-on-2, and the clock is on their side. 15 seconds left, and Drone's still here on the site. They haven't been able to stop this fight.
10 seconds left.
GMD is on a 2 versus 1. Really, he just got to look into the side. He's looking to at least try to go for a but he hears a footstep across the board, and that's it. They're going to win on time for TSM, and that is a Herculean hold for Drone inside that site. I just love the way that it was played. You talked about, oh, by the way, look at the scoreboard. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Kibber countdown. But as you mentioned before, how it was a minefield towards that A side here, Bach. The fault line that was thrown by Drone allows for them to kind of combo it up. If people are going to try to run into the site, they get fault line to start things off, and they look for some cover towards the towards that hell side, and the mollies could come out, the nanosworms could come out, and then they start taking down on HP. So, and then after that, as you said, they had weaker weapons for TSM too. It was a bonus round that they had with the exception of that off there, that Wardell carried it into that previous round, but the Spectre from Drone.
Wardell wisely gets into a better position. The paranoia actually finds Quinn, but it's nearsightedness, so he can still see that close target and ends up using the Blade Storm masterfully. Player 1 spots out the alarm bot waiting around the corner. They're going to shift over to A, where again they've got to contest with Drone, and I believe Drone was spotted by Player 1. Yeah, you can see the line hold right there, and a great dink shot through the wall from Player 1 means that this A site is now opened up. There is still some Killjoy utility here, including the turret and the nano swarms, but it's a little bit late on the deployment of those nano swarms, so they actually get past and take no damage. It will be a 2-on-3. Cutler and Hayes working together to try to get back into this A site. Got some damage dealt to that Cypher, who's currently sitting in the cubby on long. They take out the tripwire, and they'll be moving into position to contest with Player 1.
They found my wire.
Or at least he, unfortunately, actually does not get the kill onto Hayes. So Hayes dispatches him with the headshot, and they're moving inside that site. It's down to a 2 versus 2. They can't really do anything else. It's not that useful, but Hayes continues to walk forward, gets the headshot to win, and Cutler with the last one as well. No utilities needed. Just walk silently, see them peek out, get the kills and the defuse to make it 4 unanswered rounds. I thought it was going to be the round coming in for Gen.G at that point, because we saw a beautiful shot there. I think it was Player 1, right? That was on the A ramp that won that fight versus Drone, the single anchor player inside that site, which allowed Gen.G to get into the area, get the spike plan, and also get post-plant positioning. But somehow, TSM, Cutler, and Hayes were just able to work together and regain the maps on their side.
Yeah, a bit of a fumbled opportunity there from Gen.G, as should have worked out a whole lot better for them. But it was that 50-50 guessed right by Hayes, clearing the corner, and then more. Wardell's going to go for this aggressive play. We've seen it already, and it didn't work out in the past as Wardell tried to get around the edge of this dark cover just like this. It was spotted, but it's a quick shot that comes out. Doesn't matter. Quinn is there with the punish. Now the Viper ult will be popped on B, and it's in the perfect position as well. So that'll potentially scare them away from the B site. And you can see they're already like, all right, well, I guess we have to go A. So they're going to start shifting towards A, where yet again, despite this Viper ult, they're putting a lot of faith on Drone to solo hold this.
Correct. And then they're just putting the weaknesses on openings. What they have on the defense is to actually just have the last two players just play up on the B heaven side so they could crossfire that area. So now that they're playing that a little bit more passively, they're giving that map control available for Gen.G to overtake B. But the thing is, even if Gen.G tried to split through ropes, they can't, because an alarm bot is up there on the top of the ropes. So this is actually the best position Gen.G could be at to overtake this A side. Drone is probably going to spot it and call for the rotate, and then he's just going to wait for his teammates to come back. But until then,
30
Gen.G
seconds
is going to be
left.
able to just sneak into this area.
Drone is waiting. There's that first peek coming out from Drone that'll try and slow them down at least as the flashpoint came through. There's a nade right into his belly though, so he has to change positions as that paint-flooded shrapnel starts to stain his
10
interior.
seconds left.
It's a 4-on-4 and the spike will
planted.
go down. And Mikhail's gonna pop the ult, potentially get some intel. No, actually going back towards long. Thought maybe we'd see that pop towards spawn more. There's a lot of players starting to work through from screens. You've got Hayes laying out the toxic screen to make it a little bit easier for them to get out onto the site. Sean's right around the corner, paranoid at first. There's the flashpoint coming through as well. Quinn is there with the backup. Sean's got the big stop though, and it's now down to Hayes. It's a 1-on-4 coming through from heaven. The first shot is right on the money. But there's Quinn going big with the 3K. It started with the kill onto Wardell in mid, then picks up the op and cashes in over on the A site. TSM, they had the Viper's pit on B, but they didn't send any resources away, and as a result, that A site was too soft and too easy for Gen.G to take.
Yeah, I like it though. I think the idea behind that strat for TSM is getting that Viper pit towards B, you cancel out B entrance, so teams have to focus on mid side and A side. If they try to take mid, then they have two players stacked up on heaven side where they could fight back. If they try to take A, just as we just saw before, we're going to have Drone that's going to throw some flashes, but when the rotate comes through, you have a toxic screen still available from Hayes to put the wall up, so they use the flashpoints later on and retake together as a team. But Sean was just too good holding his angle from the elbow side as that raise and just pops him off again. You can't deny how Sean is good right now in this series. So despite them having the utilities for the retake, you just had to try to land your shots against that player from Gen.G, which they did.
Quick shots coming out from Quinn after we saw Cutler pick things up first. Gen.G bring us back to 3-on-3. There's the ult sending Sabrosa into attacker spawn. They're going to watch their flank though. They got to keep an eye on their 6. Now Hayes is still in position. With all the utility that's laid down from their Killjoy, they have some things they still have to work through, despite the fact that Cutler is watching, not currently alive. That utility still remains. Most concerning, obviously, the alarm bot, which is waiting right around the corner. Do they spot it? Well, no, it does get triggered, and it gives away the play towards heaven. They've still got Sabrosa on the flank. They've got Hayes here as well, but Wardell, Quinn, excuse me, watching that line. Missed shot from Quinn, though, and a rare miss at that. That puts the attackers in a really weird position. They have to run to this B site, where now they're going to be wandering into Wardell, who's got the knives
10
out.
seconds left.
He's waiting for them. He's ready. Does he hit the clicks? There's the first one going his way. The smoke comes down, but Wardell with the jumping knife from the Blade Storm produces success for TSM yet again. They faltered once, but they find themselves back on top as kings on the scoreboard.
So just a great job again from using the utilities on TSM sides to flush their opponents exactly where they want them to be. So the toxic screen was perfect for them to not force to run through it. It doesn't do that much damage, but you do get decayed where the damage will be amplified when you get hit by that, right? So they wanted to play it safe into an alarm bot where 3 of them got hit by that. So that allows Hayes to just move into an angle where technically it shouldn't have been won. Versus Win. Win missed this shot. It was a key shot that had to be hit at the same time too. Where that shot probably could have changed around where they could actually take the A side right after. But as it was missed and he loses a fight, Wardell was in a great position to get those 2 kills inside B.
Even strength, as I say that, Hayes gets a nice line of sight onto Quinn to change that. And Hayes still going big for Heaven. Wants a little bit more, sticks around too long. Needs backup from Sabrosa, who actually comes up empty-handed. So despite the early heroics from the Viper, Anti-Venom has been applied, and they've brought themselves to a 3-on-3. They're going to start working their way into the B site. They should be able to get across. Deep camera coming in, but there's that difficult ult to deal with. The Rolling Thunder, the showstopper as well, sends a rocket into spawn. A breach charge coming out as they start to work their way in. Cutler's got one going right around the corner. There's player 1 from up on top. Player 1's gonna find them all. It's 4 kills on the round for the former Brimstone turned Cypher as Gen.G picks up their second, a round they desperately needed to grab, as it continues to toy with the economy that TSM has been building up in this first half.
That was just beautiful to watch from both ends. A Rolling Thunder, but a showstopper to prevent the defenders from rotating outside and getting those picks for the ones that actually got stunned by the Rolling Thunder. But at the same time, the aftershock was thrown by Drone at the left side entrance to clear on an angle, but the Omen actually used the Shadow Step to get back towards default. And as it gets into the plant, people are chasing after them, and nobody's looking or paying attention to PL1 that's able to play on the top of that catwalk and get those kills. Ace early this round, though, is getting tagged. He's forced to fall back, but it's going to be Sabrosa. A nice bait and switch and an early 5-on-4 on his Eagle for TSM.
Early advantage for TSM. Not something that Gen.G wants to see happen. Trying to build up some momentum after falling a little bit flat the first few rounds. Again, though, it is split. It's still defense-sided. Maybe the numbers have changed a bit, but I would like to believe that that fact still remains the same. Now, they do have the Killjoy ult for TSM lockdown. Gonna make it difficult for them to move. Now, player 1 has picked off Drone. You could hear the long-range Sheriff shot come out, but it was off the mark. And player 1's gonna be backing off. They're gonna be heading back towards B. There's Rolling Thunder coming into that B
30
site.
seconds
Paranoia
left.
as well. Flashpoint in. They're not taking anything for granted. They're gonna take this just as if this was a full buy coming in from TSM.
Spike planted.
And they'll get the spike down as well. Now, Sabrosa's got a good line of sight, and that's player 1 falling. That's a rifle pickup for Sabrosa, a player you don't want to give that to, but gets caught going for the Paranoia as Imon is ready. Now, there is that Killjoy ult lockdown being popped from Cutler, but they can get away from this one and still play towards the spike. You can see their Jet now escaping into B main. They'll try to make it back out. Spike is open, planted for them. Hayes with a nice shot onto Mikael. And that work down from the Viper makes it difficult. They're going to keep working their way in, but it's come down to a 2-on-2. The spike being stuck. They've actually managed to make it work. The thrifty round comes through. All will perish, but it doesn't matter. It's a 6th round on the scoreboard for TSM.
Those are some crisp sheriff shots, for 3 of the players, right? Hayes and Sabrosa. And looking back, actually, at how that was played for TSM, I loved it. Sabrosa able to, that first off the bait and switch, the second one to get the kill off PL1 on that rotation. So despite him playing towards B main before, he rotated out of that area and went into Ramen to catch the rotation. But in the end, it comes down to the Killjoy ult, where they know it covers the whole site and everybody has to run back towards B main. And as they run back through B main, Hayes puts up the toxic cloud. So that, the poison cloud rather, that doesn't allow anybody to push back forward and also getting decay when you're looking for the kill. So that was beautiful in that eco.
Right off the bat, there's an early fight that gives both teams a different number of players remaining. It's a 4-on-4. You've got the Viper Pit again for TSM. We'll see where they decide to use it this time, if they use it at all. Drone in position as always, but there's some backup this time around. We've talked about how Drone was often isolated and alone on this site, but this time around, he's got support. It's Cutler who's in position. The flashbang's coming up from Drone, trying to help slow things down. Look at the flashback utilization from Sean. He flies into position, but he wasn't prepared for this. Was not ready for help when he was waiting in the corner. Great flash as well coming out from Drone. And now it's down to Kimon. Can't really do much to survive in the round. So a solid shift of defense right now for TSM to put Killjoy over on A with Drone, and it works out nicely. Gen.G found a gap in the armor, but it was sealed up pretty quickly by TSM. And yet again, the scoreboard very much in control by very much in control of TSM, but it is split. So, you know, if we can see Gen.G get 2 or 3 more rounds on the scoreboard here at the tail end of this first half, that would actually be massive.
And even if it's the same storyline as, for example, TSM and Cloud9, even a 10-2 could still amount to a comeback from Gen.G. But so far, what I really like here from TSM is the rounds where they just don't want to give any pacing to Gen.G. They always push so aggressively inside that mid side, where Wardell gets a kill or 2 before he dies, and it's good enough because it gives that information away. This time, they tried to go aggressively from the A side on Gen.G, but Wardell rotated from the rope side and was able to win that fight versus Win that went for the right click with the knives and didn't pay off. The rest of them are on Eco, and he's on low HP, at 2 HP right now for Win. So it's going to be very hard for Gen.G to try to rotate back from ropes over to this B side.
Enemy kill.
Wardell picking off Win, spamming through the wall, actually getting back with a straight transfer. It's Sabroza who comes in and offers up some support, but it's a 3K on the round for Wardell. Probably feeling like he didn't need it, even though he's certainly received a heaping amount of damage on the round. Mikael has the spike, but unfortunately also has a Guardian. Not exactly the weapon of choice for most players currently.
30 seconds
Spam
left.
shots through, not going to connect. And now he's trapped, trying to fight his way out of this scenario. There's one coming in on the flank as well. You can still have Paranoia blow past. Nice shot onto Wardell, who is very low on HP. Mikael does get scratched up as well in the fight. Paranoia going back, but it's not going to be enough. It's a little bit to the left, and Sabroza will survive. 8 rounds on the board for TSM, only 2 for Gen.G. We'll take a look at the buy and see what's going to happen here for Gen.G as we move closer and closer to the tail end of this first half.
Yeah, the money is good at least right now for Gen.G, and if they lose another one, it's 2,900, which will put them in a situation where they're going to be on a broken buy. So they have to come up huge in this round right now for Gen.G to maybe stand a chance in the second half. You want to come up with a high morale. It's still doable to come back from a 10-2, as I just mentioned before, but just to be able to add these 2 rounds, these last 2 rounds of the half, could definitely help out. And they have 2 ultimates just to gain information pretty much more than trying to get entries with for this attacker side team. So Wardell is getting full time to be pushed back, but he's looking to trade his avenged fallen teammate, but he misses a shot, unfortunately. So that's a lot of mid control available here for Gen.G that they can split wherever they want. And because of that, you see Wardell rotate right away on Heaven's side because you did pop your Viper's Pit for Haze, and you can't cover Heaven. So Wardell this time has to come up huge again at Heaven's side.
Wardell getting closer and closer, inches towards the targets, pulls the knives out, but just can't quite line up the blades. And now Haze hiding in that thick cloud of venom, waiting for the push to come through. Will pick off the first target. That's Sean going down. Haze is playing this one masterfully and illustrating just how brutal that ult can be. Haze now sneaking into the site and right around the corner. And it'll come down to this. It's player 1. As that decay takes him down to 1 HP, he'll start to recuperate some of his health, but not all, as he took quite a few bullets in the side.
30 seconds left.
77 HP and 30 seconds to work with. You've got Breach in Heaven, and Killjoy was spawned now, going back up those stairs to join their teammate. It's Drone and Cutler on the other side.
I have retrieved the spike.
And player 1 has picked up the spike. Now working straight towards them, wanting to just take the fight to their doorstep, and Drone is waiting Player one tries to play peekaboo, but TSM's having none of it.
Last round
And give
before
it
the
to him
half.
the way that he played that Viper's Pit, and you know what? That's intentional of where he actually starts the ult as well, because when you saw him jiggle peek outside of his own Viper's Pit to look up towards Heaven's side, it kind of turns into a one-way in his favor, where Sean didn't actually get to see him on the top of the catwalk to drop down. So he gets that first pick, and then you go back into your Viper's Pit, and you know they're going to try to push in towards you because Sean is going to tell him exactly where you are. So as you move faster inside the pit too, he gets the second one to GMD, but he turns all the way around over onto the other side where the Viper Pit stays up because there's a meter still on the ult. So well done for him. A great hold on his side to allow his last two teams to easily get the kills. And look at that, he doesn't even care anymore. Top Ryan going with the surprise attack, getting 2 kills of his own.
Exactly
and getting
where
up and
you
going. The last 3 guys are moving inside the side.
Player standing.
Stealing sight.
Quick shot comes in from Wardell just before the Rolling Thunder hits. Quinn just blind for days there, 69 HP. Keck W in the chat. Wardell will hit the final shot of the round as it's 10-2 for
Switching
TSM.
sides.
They have a commanding lead. But again, we have to just go back to this point, and I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, or in Scrawny's words, beating a dead dog, as he swears that's a thing. It is split, so it is a defensive-sided map. We'll take a look at the first half replay so you can see just how things got to this point. This was an early round from Drone where he just went lights out on the site and stomped out the push. This was one of the early rounds as well that we saw from Gen.G, where it was Quinn who picked up an early kill on Wardell, grabbed the op, and then made that all possible. Here was an adjustment from TSM after we started seeing Gen.G win some rounds. Cutler shifted over to A to back up Drone.
Enemy kill.
And this was Wardell also popping off in an anti-eco, finding 3 kills on the round, getting a little bit of support as he got dropped down low on HP.
And that's the thing, though, right? You saw that 2K from Sean, and then we mentioned him with the 1 kill before, but I think that's it. They did such a great job containing Sean as well, not allowing him to pop off as much as we called how good he was in the first 2 maps, but that's it. I think he was stuck here at the bottom with only 3 to 5 kills, maybe even 3 kills to end that half, and those are the 3 kills that we mentioned
Spike
before.
planted.
But this time, though, it's going to be TSM not letting go of that gas pedal, and they're moving forward inside A for a plant already, and Wardell's going to be the one pushing forward with the frenzy. A nice fault line that's going to daze Quinn, and Wardell goes for the kill. Counter smokes or counter flashes as well, and GMD retaliates back. One spotted stuck inside that counter pot at L, but they're still doing a great job to clear it out. Wardell's in the corner where he has to peek out, and it gets picked off. It's a 2 versus 2. The spike is still planted for TSM as the wall comes up here for Hayes. He retakes the position of Wardell where he fell, but his teammate falls at the same time. He's on a 2 versus 1. He's clutched it before, but he cannot do it this time. GMD kills him, and Gen.G gets the defuse, maybe?
They got it. It's going to be close, but they've certainly got it. 1.63 left on the clock as Gen.G win a absolute must-win pistol round in this second half. They could not afford to give TSM that little bit of wiggle room that they had left. So you could see the reaction from Gen.G. Spectres and a Bulldog. And it'll be pistols across the board for TSM. It should be a softball round for Gen.G to win.
Hopefully it is, because we've seen this situation, Bob, before when, you know, they only had pistols in their hands. Thankfully for TSM, though, or at least for Gen.G, it was Sheriff that we had. Well, actually, Sabrosa has one. So he could actually open things up right now as he's trying to lurk towards his mid side. And that jiggle peek is coming from Sean, but it's missed. So thankfully, the jip has been given. They spotted Sabrosa, and the rest of them will potentially try to work towards this A side.
Mikhail right around the corner, hiding behind that toxic wall. It's Mikhail trying to first with Quinn, and jeez, Mikhail mops up. That's 4 kills as a flawless round victory comes through. Mikhail barely takes any damage in the fight as well. 10-4, good buddy. Gen.G's bringing it back, or at least trying to. But this will be that stopping point potentially for TSM as the full buy comes through, and it's going to be more than likely rifles across the board. We talked about this already. We haven't really seen that attack op, and this would not be the round to see it anyway, as the money would not be there.
This is going to be desperate for Gen.G, right? They only have Spectres to work with too, because he can't really go into upgrading right away, because they would actually lose. If they lose the round, they're going to be broke for the rest of the game pretty much. and the chances are going to be even greater for TSM to take the series. So they have to play a bit more aggressively, and Mikael starts that way, and Hayes picks him off. But at least, oh no, not at least actually, it was a nice combo from a drone and to Sabrosa to get the flashpoint, for Sabrosa to get through, and more map control. So unfortunately for them here, they lose 2 players early, and Sean's already down to 9 HP. The chances look super grim here for Gen.G to try to take this round on this bonus.
Lot of weight being shifted towards A currently from TSM. Toxic screen goes down. Sabrosa is a lurking threat at the bottom of ropes as the team now starts to make their way out. There's the nade coming in. That's the tell. There's one around the corner. Sean is so low on HP, it's an easy kill. Yvonne around from elbow, but not really able to do much there. Player 1 is now the last one standing. TSM look really good in the first full buy round. A flawless victory. 2 players taking damage enough that you can even see it. 1 more getting scratched up as well, but it's 11 rounds on the board for TSM. Trying to take things in this 3rd map over Gen.G.
You see just a standard Viper toxic screen to start things off that's going to cover up towards a heaven and also a ramp. For them to try to utilize that as Hayes is going to lurk around or maybe go for a fake throw that they're going to try to execute towards the A side. So that's going to keep Gen.G guessing for a bit. They're looking to get some mid control early in a round here with Win and with Sean, where Win's trying to move forward with that Phantom, but the fault line puts him out of position, and he's still going to push down after that and try to regain momentum for Gen.G. The rest of them, though, for TSM, are looking to push towards this B side, where it has to be a big play from PL1.
Bot coming back. Placing alarm bot.
Sabrosa picking off Quinn.
Cover going out.
Giving the advantage to TSM. Drone's pretty low on HP. Mikael just times it well and executes his doppelganger to bring us back to even strength. But again, with the HP, what it is, it's going to be tough for Drone to have much of an impact. It's all going to be in the backup from Drone. The flashes, and of course, the fault lines that come through. There they go, working their way out on this site. The cyber cage doesn't slow him down. His Wardell blows right past it. Mikael has the presence of mind to keep his eyes on the prize. The prize being that section of Kavi back behind him. It's now a 3-on-2. TSM looking rough currently as Cutler's really going to have to do a lot of this
30
fighting.
seconds
Drone
left.
with just 11 HP takes down another target. That's Sean falling as well. That's huge in that not only does his rifle deal damage, but as the raise, he's also got potentially shells. It's come down though to a 1-on-1. Cutler's on 11 HP as Mikael quickly picks up the frag onto Drone, goes for the tap plant, tries to bait
10
out
seconds
the play.
left.
But Cutler has to dedicate to the plant in a moment. He's still playing with that clock, trying to bait out his opposition, and now he goes for the dedication. No, he's baited him out!
Insane.
It's a huge play! A 5-head 900 IQ play coming in from Cutler. It's both equally stupid and smart at the same time, and it works out for TSM.
Clutchler winning that one for the team, but a great play display from Cutler and Drone himself. We mentioned how Drone had low HP. He still was able to get an entry to make it a 2 versus 2 in the end, and then he went back. The only thing he had left was a aftershock, and he cleared out hell. He cleared out the possibilities of where the last player was going from, so at that point, Cutler had to only focus towards Heaven or towards Spawn, and they know how desperate Gen.G is to win these rounds. They know he has to press forward. They don't want to let TSM to get a spike plan or even let alone win the round. So he knew that Mikael was going to push out, and somehow, or G&D rather, and somehow he just gets that big play from Cutler to clutch that 1 versus 1.
That is brutal. There's a nice pickup as well coming in from Wardell, spamming through the sign.
Blocking sight.
But there's trades coming back in for Gen.G, working with suboptimal machine guns of the sub-machine gun variety, and it's worked out for them. Now Quinn's in position, there's the flashpoint through the cloud burst, making it hard to spot his target, but Wardell eventually breaks past that spiraling smoke and brings us to this point. Mikael going big right now, but it's all up to Sean. Sean has been lights out all series long. Got one target beneath, but no!
Attacker
the fall
wins.
takes the stinger and sends its recoil flying. TSM will walk away from the first strike open qualifiers as the number 3 seed, as unfortunately Gen.G just not able to take us very far into that third map. You know, the second map was a masterful performance from Gen.G, and they played well in the first half of the first map, but TSM looked great in the second half of map number 1, and they looked really good in general on split there.
No, in the end, like I said, they did a great job for TSM on that third map to really contain Sean too, not allow him to pop off, not allow him to get any kills. Even when he was trying to take mid control, when they're taking that defender side, he didn't have a chance to bring any ops at all as well on the defender side too. So as he's trying to play a little bit more aggressively towards that mid side, Sabrosa punished him, knowing that he's going to play behind that box. He's been punished that way when it was playing against NV at the same time too. So TSM just looked very strong in that whole series. But at the same time, I'm not going to discredit Gen.G. I mean, defeated Sentinels in a nice 2-0 2 days ago, and they're still going to be in the top 4 moving into the close qualifier for the first strike presented by Nursery Gamers.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and take a look at the instant replay so we can see how things broke down. The instant replay is brought to you by GoPuff, the official delivery partner of Nerd Street Gamers. Use the promo code NerdStreet when you sign up on GoPuff, and you'll get $4 off your first 4 orders. GoPuff, ordered in seconds, delivered in minutes. You can see how things kicked off here on Haven, as it was a bit of a back and forth early on. We talked about it. Very close in that first half. Ended up going 7-5. A lot of highlights from that, as it was a lot of individual play. At times it did feel a little bit sloppy, looking specifically at that play that closed out the first half, which we'll get to in just a second, which was the Sean 4K.
And there you go. That's probably one of the better rounds here that TSM kind of had on the defender side too, and then it just started running away. Sorry, on the attacker side, and they just ran away here on that first map. But overall, I gotta say that Gen.G, they put up a good fight here on that second map, but TSM definitely looked much stronger. And despite them losing Ascent on their map pick here for TSM, the fact that they're still able to win, 13-6 when we're looking at the final score of this first map, it still shows that Haven is going to be their home ground to play. So looking at the map pool, how deep it is for TSM so far, the way that they've displayed such a great defensive side on split as well, shows that looking into possibly the close qualifier, maybe even if once they make it, or if they make it to the top 4 into the first strike finals, then they're going to be one of the teams to continue to look out for in the top rankings for NA.
I mean, look at this second map. I mean, this was just a masterful performance, and a large part of it was due to the work done by Sean, who was just ridiculous. This
Lights out. Lights out.
Another ace for Sean, as he crushed it there on the retake. And
yeah, and in the end, it just depends what's going to happen with what's going to be the positive aspects that you could take for Gen.G as well from this series, right? It shows how they could have some very big numbers and some great display of action on a map like this map here of Ascent, where when they played versus NV yesterday, yes, it kind of looked pretty one-sided too, but they were really they were stopped easily by Mummy with the operator as the Omen on that previous map. But overall, Gen.G showed a tremendous amount of positivism for that team. Some great up-and-coming things from Gen.G, bringing Sean into the roster, and they could definitely look back into this qualifier with their heads up high.
I mean, here's the thing too, right? Sean joined this team 8 days ago.
Yeah, that's it.
And that was only a few days before this started. He joined the team on Thursday of last week. The open qualifiers started on Monday. And just because Gen.G and TSM are big teams doesn't mean they got to start later in the bracket. No, they started with everyone else. It was a 128-team open bracket. Everyone started at the beginning of the bracket. So they only had a few days of practice to slot him in. In fact, he's played more with them in the qualifiers than he did prior to it, which is impressive to say the least. So we did see some flashes. I think Mikhail towards the end looked awesome. You know, we saw a lot of bright points from him as the Omen, but Sean looks lights out, even if this last round didn't exactly work out for Sean with his falling stinger shot. Thought maybe we'd see the map extend at that point, but you can see where the bullets go. Not really working out for him. But still, you know, Mikhail played great. I think Sean played great. Gimon did feel a little bit off the mark. Quinn was definitely lights out at times as well. Player 1 stepping up when necessary. There's definitely a lot to look for if you're looking at Gen.G. And again, it's not like they're eliminated. They're just playing next week as a lower seed. You know, both of these teams will be playing next week.
Yeah, and when we talked about Hayes finally being able to play somebody like a Viper, an agent as Viper on Split, where in the beta days you were looking at, for example, how Psalm would actually use the ult towards mid instead, but him using it towards B, the way that they're using the utilities as well on the defender side for TSM definitely shows that what they practiced and really came into fruition on their side for that third map. So I gotta say, TSM looked very, very strong on Split on defender side, but that's where they were able to get that comeback versus Cloud9 as well. But in the end, the attacker side was where we actually didn't get a chance to see if there was any improvements versus Cloud9 yesterday, because they didn't need that many rounds to play versus Gen.G. So that's going to be the next question mark to look at for TSM, when they're going to have to play Split, or if somebody chooses Split against them moving into the first strike close qualifiers.
Well, we are going to go ahead and throw things to a break before we jump into our grand finals, but I want to task you guys with something. You've seen the Nerd Street Gamers account in the Twitch page saying, hey guys, don't spam 4, it crashes my computer. I challenge you to spam 4 enough to crash that computer if you would, kind sirs and ladies. We'll be back in just a bit with the grand finals, Cloud9 and Envy duking it out for the #1 seed moving into next week's closed qualifiers. We'll be back in just a bit.